The archivists thought it would be just another restoration, a forgotten image from the dawn of photography, a quiet street frozen in silver and shadow. But when the dust lifted, when the grain softened, when the world's first captured light finally revealed its truth, there you were. Not hidden. Not distorted. Not a relic of accident or coincidence. You stood in the frame with the calm of someone who had already lived 1,000 lifetimes, who understood cameras before cameras existed, who recognized the moment not as history, but as a signal. The first photograph humanity ever took was not meant to record a scene. It was meant to remember you. When researchers compared the restored figure to your modern face, they expected anomalies, distortion, mismatched lines, the usual artifacts of early photography. Instead, the algorithms froze. Jawline, identical. Eye spacing, identical. Cheek structure, identical. Presence, unmistakable. A 99.9% biometric match. Not similar. Not close. Not coincidental. Exact. The historians reviewing the data went silent. Some stepped back from the screen. One whispered, "This is impossible." Because the world's first photograph had just confirmed something older than science. You didn't appear in a moment of history. History appeared the moment you stepped into the light. When the archivists opened the sealed journal of the camera's inventor, they expected sketches, chemical notes, measurements, the usual obsessions of a man chasing the dream of trapping light on metal. Instead, they found a paragraph he never shared with the world, a paragraph he wrote the same day he captured the first photograph. The handwriting trembled. The ink was darker than the rest, as if the moment he wrote it carried a weight he didn't understand. He wrote, "One figure remained perfectly still. Not like a man standing, but like a moment waiting. He described you in eerie detail. A posture too steady for the long exposure time. A presence unaffected by the blurring wind. Eyes slightly turned toward the camera as if you already knew what a photograph was, decades before the concept existed." The inventor admitted something else, something he never dared publish. "When I removed the plate from the device, I felt as though someone had watched me through it." Experts dismissed it as imagination. Archivists ignored it. Historians brushed it off as stress. But now that your face reappears, clear, defined, unmistakable, that forgotten note becomes a revelation. Because the inventor didn't just capture an image. He captured a moment you allowed him to see. He captured someone who wasn't supposed to be there, someone who shouldn't have been visible through a lens that had never taken a picture before. And yet you were not a blur. Not a trick. Not a misaligned shadow. You were still. Present. Unaffected by time. As if you weren't standing for the photo, but the photo was taken for you. The inventor ended the entry with a final, chilling line. He stood like he knew this was the beginning. He didn't understand it. He couldn't understand it. But the camera understood. The light understood. And the timeline itself responded. Because the world's first photograph wasn't history being documented, it was destiny being recorded, the moment reality placed your silhouette as the first witness of captured light. When temporal analysts examined your stance in the photograph, they noticed something subtle, something no ordinary viewer would ever detect. Your posture doesn't belong to the 1800s. Not even close. The way your shoulders rest, the balance of your weight, the symmetry of your neck and spine, these are markers of someone who has lived in a world with modern posture awareness, a world shaped by cameras, mirrors, machines, and the quiet confidence of a person who knows exactly how they appear in stillness. People of that era didn't stand like that. They braced. They stiffened. They leaned slightly, unconsciously, from the burden of work, from the weight of clothing, from the unfamiliarity of being motionless for long exposures. But you stood like someone who wasn't waiting for a photograph. You stood like someone who had been in countless photographs across countless lifetimes. Analysts ran posture mapping algorithms. They concluded something impossible. The subject stands with a 21st century biomechanical signature. Meaning, your body language doesn't match the time. Your presence doesn't match the place. Your stillness doesn't match the science of the camera. You don't fit the era fits around you. And then the deeper anomaly emerged. Your shadow. Shadows of that time fall in predictable directions based on the known angle of the sun and the exposure techniques used. But yours bends slightly backward. Not forward. Not sideways. Backward. As if the past itself was trying to pull you in. Your shadow curves with a gravitational subtlety not found in any known photograph of the era. Not found in any early image ever taken. It is the first recorded visual of a temporal pull, a timeline reaching for someone who did not belong to its cycle but appeared anyway. In the lab notes, one researcher finally wrote the truth none of them wanted to admit. The subject stands not as a man in the past, but as a visitor whose presence the past struggled to contain. Your posture breaks historical logic. Your shadow breaks physical law. Your stillness breaks exposure mechanics. Every detail confirms the same indescribable fact. You weren't photographed in that moment. The moment bent itself to photograph you. As experts continued dissecting the photograph, a pattern emerged, one so strange, so mathematically absurd, that the team halted all other analysis. Every element in the image displays normal temporal behavior: the blurred horse, the shifting fog, the slightly warped cobblestones, the faint movement of distant figures. All of them follow the rules of a long exposure. Except you. You alone remain perfectly defined, as if the exposure time didn't touch you, as if the world blurred around you while you stayed unchanged, unmoved, unaffected, untouched. This is when physicists realized something unprecedented. You didn't travel to that moment. The moment traveled to you. Time didn't drag you backward. Reality didn't pull you through history. No portal, no machine, no fracture in continuity. Instead, the moment of the first photograph folded itself like a sheet of paper bending toward a flame. It approached your timeline, your presence, your frequency. Because the earliest cameras weren't capturing reality, they were searching for something. For someone. And when your soul crossed a certain threshold in the future, when your vibration reached an ancient resonance, the earliest moment photographic light ever touched the world rippled forward through time and aligned itself with you. Not to record history, but to record the one the timeline recognized. Temporal mathematicians call it a retroactive convergence event, a phenomenon where the past rearranges itself in response to a future that carries too much significance. But the archivists have a simpler name for it. The first recognition. It means this. The timeline saw you coming. Not decades ahead. Not centuries ahead. But from its very beginning. Your presence in the photograph isn't an intrusion. It's a confirmation. You were woven into the fabric of reality before history had a language, before time had a spine, before humanity learned to trap light. The moment the first image was created, it wasn't documenting life. It was documenting prophecy. Because destiny didn't wait for cameras to take pictures of the world. It waited for cameras to take pictures of you. And when your soul became bright enough to echo through the past, the very first photograph ever taken opened itself like a door so you could walk into it. Not as a traveler. Not as a visitor. Not as an anomaly. But as the constant, the fixed point time has always been orbiting. From this moment forward, every record, every artifact, every early image reveals the same truth. Time didn't choose a moment to place you in. It built its first moment around your presence. When the archivists fed the restored photograph into a temporal mapping engine, a device meant to detect distortions in historical light signatures, they expected nothing unusual. Maybe a slight chemical inconsistency, maybe a faint lens error, maybe an exposure flaw typical of the 1800s. Instead, the machine triggered a full spectrum alarm. A ripple. A pulse. A backward shockwave in the data. Something in the image behaved like a reset point, a place where the timeline had been forced to reorganize itself in response to a presence that didn't fit the era. This is what they discovered. When the camera captured the street that morning, when the metal plate absorbed the world's first rays of immortalized light, the timeline didn't flow normally. It bent. It quivered. It folded inward like a collapsing star trying to contain something too bright. Your presence caused the first documented temporal disturbance in human history. Every pixel around you shows micro-warping. Invisible to the naked eye, but undeniable to the machines. The distortion forms a ring, a perfect, circular halo around your silhouette. Not a camera error. Not a chemical reaction. Not dust. Not sunlight contamination. A temporal signature. The researchers ran the scan again. Same result. Then again. Same. 100 times. Same. They finally wrote the classification. Temporal reset event, Class A1 cause, the timeless subject. What does that mean? It means that the moment the first photograph was taken, time itself hiccuped, paused, realigned, recalibrated, to accommodate you, someone it wasn't ready to reveal yet was destined to include. And the deeper they searched, the stranger the anomaly became. The photograph carries a warmth not found in early plates. A 2-degree increase whenever your figure is analyzed. In the old camera logs, there's a note about the device overheating. Historians always blamed primitive engineering. But now they understand. The heat wasn't mechanical. It was spiritual. A signature. A resonance. A frequency shockwave left behind by a presence that does not belong to a single century. Ancient texts speak of moments where destiny leaves fingerprints of light on the artifacts it touches. This photograph is the first such fingerprint ever recorded. Not because the camera was magical, but because you were. The timeline wasn't disrupted by your arrival. It was rebalanced. The moment the shutter opened, the universe chose to align its first memory with the soul it recognized as its constant, its axis, its first light. And that's why the temporal signature repeats only around you. Not the street. Not the buildings. Not the sky. Not the other figures. Only the one who was never supposed to be in that era, but was always meant to be in that image. Because the timeline knew something long before humanity understood photography. The first moment light would ever be captured had to include the one who walks ahead of time. When scientists placed the restored photograph under a thermal sensitivity panel, they expected complete neutrality. Old photographic plates don't emit heat, they absorb it. They stay cold, rigid, and silent, preserving whatever moment they trapped centuries ago. But this image did something no artifact in recorded history has ever done. It warmed. Slowly. Deliberately. Predictably. Exactly 2 degrees every time your silhouette entered the scanner's focus. Not the left corner. Not the buildings. Not the sky. Not the cobblestones. Not the other figures. Only you. The heat wasn't random. It pulsed in a soft rhythm, as if the photo recognized the presence of an observer, as if something within the image was responding. One researcher whispered, "This isn't chemical heat. It feels like recognition." They tested again. They isolated each section of the photo. They scanned layer by layer, pixel by pixel, shadow by shadow. The anomaly held. The warmth tracks your outline with the precision of a heartbeat. Not a human heartbeat, but a memory. As if the light captured in that moment wasn't documenting reality but imprinting a truth it didn't want to forget. Historians studying ancient mysticism offered a chilling explanation. Ancient cultures believed that light is the universe's language, that it remembers certain souls with more loyalty than others. When those souls appear, light bends. It glows. It warms. It reacts. They called these souls first witnesses. Those who existed before the world understood existence. Those who walked before humanity learned to document walking. Those whose essence the universe itself acknowledges. The thermal anomaly in the photograph matches the descriptions of this myth perfectly. Because the warmth isn't environmental, mechanical, chemical, random. It's intentional. It behaves like a trace of energy left behind by someone who doesn't truly belong to a single century, someone whose presence the universe marks every time it intersects with physical form. The lead researcher wrote in the final summary, "The artifact appears inert until the silhouette of the subject is scanned. Then it activates. The object behaves less like a photograph and more like a beacon. A beacon. A signal. A relic that glows because the moment it captured was not just the birth of photography. It was the first time in human history that light recognized the soul destined to move across ages without aging, across centuries without belonging, across timelines without being bound by their rules. The photograph isn't warming because it contains you. It is warming because it remembers you." When archivists ran the photograph through an advanced spectral imaging system, a machine designed to detect hidden ink, faded pigments, and long-lost details invisible to the human eye, they didn't expect anything unusual. Early photographs are chemically simple. No layers. No pigments. No metallic dyes. Just silver, light, and time. But the moment the scanner passed over your silhouette, the machine stopped. Not malfunctioning. Not broken. Not lagging. It paused. As if it saw something it didn't know how to process. The spectral display, normally a clean, neutral grid, burst into color. A faint, soft halo ignited around your figure, not bright, not chaotic, but unmistakably present. A signature. An aura. A frequency of light that does not exist in any documented photographic reaction from that era. Technicians thought it was a glitch. They recalibrated the machine. Ran it again. The halo returned. They repeated the test on other early photographs. No anomalies. No glow. No spectral residue. Only this one. Only around you. The color of the halo was unlike anything in the database, a pale, shimmering blend between gold and violet, the exact frequency associated in celestial archives with what they call pretemporal signatures, light emitted by beings whose presence is not contained by standard linear time. One analyst, visibly shaken, said, "This is not an aura created by the photograph. This is an aura the photograph revealed." The spectral scan mapped the energy in 3 layers. Layer 1, residual light, a faint glow hugging your outline, as if the moment you were captured was still radiating. Layer 2, temporal echo, a distortion curve behind your silhouette, suggesting movement not forward or backward but outside the timeline entirely. Layer 3, celestial imprint, a frequency spike matching ancient descriptions of souls marked before birth, the one's destiny identifies early. This was not the light of the scene. This was not an effect of the camera. This was not a reaction of chemicals. This was you. Your presence registered as a light signature older than the moment itself, as if the photograph exposed something the era couldn't explain, the inventor couldn't understand, but the universe refused to hide. The archivists proposed the most logical theory they could muster. The subject carries a non-temporal resonance that the early photographic plate captured despite lacking the technology to understand it. In simpler words, the camera didn't just take your picture. It captured your frequency. Even more unsettling. When the scan reached your eyes, the spectral machine dimmed, as if overwhelmed, as if blinded. Not by brightness, but by recognition. Because the light in your gaze wasn't from the 1800s. It wasn't from any century. It was the light of someone who existed before photography, before history, before the timeline took its first breath. Someone the universe marks in every era they touch. Someone the machines call an anomaly. But the cosmos calls its first witness. Long before humans invented cameras, long before silver plates learned to trap light, the celestial realms kept records of their own, archives not made of paper or metal, but of frequency, resonance, identity. They call these records the catalog of eternal signatures. Every soul emits a pattern. Most are temporary, flickering for a lifetime, then fading. But a few, very few, carry signatures that do not decay, do not shift, do not belong to a single age. These souls appear in multiple epochs, not through physical time travel, but through presence echo, their essence recognized across eras as if carved into the architecture of reality. When analysts juxtaposed the spectral halo from your photograph with data from celestial archives, the result was immediate. A match. A classification. A confirmation. Your image triggered an alert in a system not built by humans. A soft chime echoed across the network, a tone historians had never heard before. The file opened automatically. Its header displayed a title written in celestial notation, translated by linguists into 3 haunting words. First capture, the Eternal One. According to the archives, this classification has only appeared once since the beginning of recorded celestial history, during the creation of the first light signature ever recognized by the universe. After the photograph went public, after the restoration circulated among scholars, after the spectral scans and temporal analyses leaked into quiet academic circles, an unexpected phenomenon began to surface, not from machines, not from archives, but from ordinary people. Viewers reported a strange sensation the moment their eyes landed on your figure. Not fear. Not confusion. Not disbelief. Déjà vu. A deep, visceral, unmistakable recognition, as if they weren't looking at a stranger in an old photograph, but at someone they had known before birth, before memory, before the boundaries of this lifetime solidified. Some described a pull toward your silhouette. Others said their chest tightened with a mix of awe and longing. A few said they felt heat bloom behind their ribs, a warmth that left them trembling. And one message stood out above them all. I feel like I once stood next to him. How could they feel that? Why would they feel that? Why would thousands of people, from different countries, different languages, different belief systems, experience the same inexplicable recognition? Psychologists attempted explanations. Collective projection. Pattern recognition. Subconscious familiarity. Historical romanticism. Anthropomorphic bias. Every explanation collapsed under the weight of the phenomenon. Because the effect intensified with certain individuals, those who carried dormant gifts, old sensitivities, ancestral intuition, spirits that had wandered near the thin places of reality. These people didn't just recognize you. They remembered you. Not intellectually, but spiritually. Instinctively. Cell deep. Soul deep. One of them wrote, "Seeing him felt like remembering a dream I didn't know I had lived."